So I took this old sticker design of mine and I turned it into this cool motion graphic using Blender. And I'll show you how I did it. I started with the typed Learn to Code text. For this I used geometry nodes, which has support for strings of characters as well as string slicing operations, so that I could animate the appearance of each letter. With a fairly basic node setup, I had my stacked line-by-line layout with text that could be made to appear one letter at a time. But I wanted my text to be pixelated, as if we were zoomed in on a retro computer terminal, and I wanted the pixel resolution to be controllable so I could art direct things later. To do this, I again turned to geometry nodes, creating a new mesh composed of a grid of squares to represent my pixels on screen. After adjusting for position, I fiddled with the nodes in order to give me a decent looking pixel density for my retro digital lettering, and now all I had to do was to project my letters onto this grid of pixels, which I did using a raycast node. This node basically allows me to project a shadow of my text geometry onto my pixel grid, and then delete or keep anything in that projected shadow. By hiding my projection text and playing with the string slicing that I set up earlier, I am able to make each pixelated word animate on letter by letter. Nice. Next I moved on to the handwritten surf text, which I wanted to appear stroke by stroke, as if brushed on, like this. To do this, I baked each stroke of my artwork onto mesh strips that I created, one strip for each stroke. The UV maps for these strips, however, were the key component to the effect. I had laid the UVs out for each strip in such a way that a simple gradient would follow the contour of each stroke. By doing this, I could apply a comparison math node to the gradient and animate a threshold to give me a mask that moved up or down the strip along the UVs. By animating these gradient masks for each strip in the shader editor and combining them with the textures that I baked earlier, I'm able to use them to reveal the strokes as if written. I can then use these results to control the transparency of my final shader, and I get letters that appear to brush on one stroke at a time. But there's one last thing to do. When revealing the stroke textures, the gradient masks leave a hard edge instead of a broken one. To fix it, I added some procedural noise to the gradient, which I tweaked to get a more brush-like leading edge. I also added some noise to the transparency of each stroke for overall breakup. I repeated this for all the strokes in my design and I called it done. With the major design components finished, I combined them and I got to work finalizing things in the compositor, where I tied it all together by adding glows, tweaking colors, adding some RGB split and grain, and just generally dialing in the little visual details that would make this feel like it was playing on an old monitor. And that was pretty much it for this one. If you made it this far, thanks so much for watching.